Hi, I'm Nicole Vogelsinger of Wild Boho. Welcome back to the Needles Out Challenge. We have finished up all of the line stitches in the previous videos, and so today we're moving on to a fill stitch. This fill stitch can be worked one of two ways, and I'm going to show you both examples, and I'm also going to show you how you can use it on your fabric. I absolutely love seeing all of your projects in the Needles Out Facebook group. And if you're not over there yet, we would love for you to join us. Feel free to ask any questions. I've seen some really good questions come in on the group and also on the videos that I've been posting on YouTube. So feel free to ask any questions there and I will answer them as best as I can. The one question that was asked is, do I use interfacing on my fabrics? And I can say that I don't. I usually don't back my fabrics with anything, so what you see is what I do. I know that some people feel more comfortable using interfacing though, and so I always say if you're comfortable using an interfacing and that's how you work, then absolutely do that. Do what's comfortable for you. I haven't ever felt the need to use it unless I'm working with applique and an applique project where I am using a fusible web to combine pieces of fabric. That's the only time that I will use a fusible or a backing of some sort. Other than that, I'm just stitching right on the fabric, and I've never had any problems with the fabric, with the beads, with the weight of anything, and I have stitched some fairly heavy projects and haven't had problems with that. So that's a personal preference. You work how you would like to work. I'm just telling you what I do, and I don't generally use interfacing, but that is a great question. I'm asked that a lot. So keep those questions coming, and let's get to a recap of what we've done so far. So a quick recap of the stitches we've covered so far. We have done the back stitch with sequins. We've done the stem stitch and added beads to it. We also worked on the chain stitch and added beads to that one. We added a little bit of dimension with the Hungarian braided chain stitch. We did a variation of the feather stitch along here. We added the maidenhair stitch. Last time we covered the last of the line stitches with the wheat ear stitch. We added some dimension with the raised stem stitch band. And today we are doing two variations of the Cretan stitch. So in my book, you'll see the Cretan stitch here. That is more of an open style Cretan stitch, and there's also a closed version, and I'm going to show you both today. So for these examples, I'm using, this is the thinnest of the eleganza. It's a size 8 pearl cotton, and it is variegated. And I love demonstrating some of these fill stitches with a variegated thread because I love to show you what looks you can achieve just by using one thread. So this is the closed version of the Cretan stitch, and this is the open version. And I'm going to show you the closed version first, and I'm going to be showing you that with a size 5 pearl cotton because I want you to just see the difference that a thread can make with the same stitch. I'm also using my Nerge stand again so that I can demonstrate by using my hands. I was asked a lot about the opening of this stand. So this is the Nerge. It's the laptop stand. There are 4 ways to adjust this, and in my previous video I was telling you how much I loved this stand. So I was asked about the opening size, and I just want to show you. This is the opening, so it is a little less than an inch. So this is an inch. The hoop size that will fit in here, it's probably 3/4 of an inch is the largest hoop that you can fit in. But I do love, I'm just going to stick this hoop in so that you can see it at a different angle. So sticking it in here, then twisting this tightens it up in the hoop. And I don't ever actually use it flipped this way, but I just wanted to show you on camera. So then I would adjust it this way to hold the hoop, and you can just twist it around however is best to hold it. And then there's lots of other points of adjustment, and I use all of them It also, what I love about the stand is that it can hold a lot of weight. So when I get really heavy with beads and everything, like this stand holds it all in place, and I can't say enough about it. I'm not sponsored by the company. I'm just raving about a product that I really love. Okay. So the Cretan stitch. You don't need to draw lines on your fabric, but it does help as you're getting started. If you're brand new to this stitch, it just helps to do the stitch when you can visually see the lines. So I'm bringing my needle up on line 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm bringing my needle up, and we're doing the closed version. And now I'm going to bring it down on line 4, and I'm not pulling it all the way through. So the way I stitch is the stab method. If you were doing the sewing method, you could bring your needle up like this. I'm so accustomed to using the stab method of stitching that this is just how I stitch, and that's just my go-to method of stitching. So I'm not pulling it all the way through, kind of like how we started with the feather stitch. And now I'm bringing my needle up on line 3 and pulling it all the way through. And now I'm taking it back down again on the first line. And every time I take it down, I'm not pulling all the way through. I'm just kind of catching it with my hand and keeping my stitches really close together. I'm bringing my needle up on line 2. And then down on line 4. And up on line 3. And down on line 1. I'm just going to show you a few of these so that you can start to see the rhythm that this stitch takes on. Up on line 2. Down on line 4. Up on line 3. So you can see it feels, whenever I stitch this one, it just has a very swoopy feel, and I love the feel. Like I feel like it's just flowing from one side to the next to the next. And I should be keeping my stitches a little bit closer together to form the closed stitch, but you get the idea. It's the angle that I'm sitting at. So there really is a lot of variety. You can make your stitches super, super close so that you wouldn't see any fabric through there. You can make it a little bit more open, like I accidentally did with mine. But by keeping your stitches so lined up, you really start to see almost like a braided effect take place in the stitch. And so it's a really fun stitch to fill an area. And I always suggest just playing with these stitches on some blank fabric to get the feel of the stitch, and then moving on to your floral piece, which I'm going to do next. And then to end it, I could just take my stitch down very close to that stitch, say I was ending the row, and there's my end. Now I'm going to show you where to put, or where I'm going to put, the closed version of the Cretan stitch on this fabric. On my orange leaves, I have a lot of, well, on all of the leaves, I have a lot of little areas that can be filled in with color. And so that's what I'm going to do with this stitch. I'm using the Elena wool thread. I talked about this in previous videos, and I love the delicate nature of this thread. And with a stitch like this, it's going to look really cool. So I'm just choosing one of these areas to fill in. I'm kind of ignoring this area up here right now because I'm going to be doing beads there. And so I'm focusing in on this little area. Just to let you know, you can absolutely do that in a project like this. This is your fabric to embroider how you see fit. And nobody is going to look at your fabric and make judgments about what you're stitching. So if I want to leave that blank and add stitches later, that's what I'm going to do. This stitch can be a little tricky to, I'm filling in this fabric with all of the stitches from my book. So it's a little tricky sometimes to figure out where to fit a stitch. And I know some of you have mentioned that with your fabrics too. So you're just going to have to bear with me as I add this stitch. I'm not drawing my lines on this fabric because I have an odd shape. And so I just wanted to demonstrate how you can add this on an odd shape. So I'm having my imaginary lines that we talked about. Here's my first one, and I'm going to be going over to this side, and there's like lines 2 and 3 there. So I'm just taking my needle down. And remember, I'm not pulling my thread all the way through because I'm coming back up. And then I'm taking my thread down again. Bringing my needle up. And kind of making little adjustments to fill in this area. Everyone is working with a different fabric, and if you find that a stitch you just can't make it work in your fabric, don't add that stitch. I am making these stitches work because I want to show you what all of the stitches look like from my book when I get them done on this fabric. So you can see I'm just filling this area in. And I'm just kind of using as my guidelines, the actual printed shape of this area on the fabric. You can see that as my shape is gradually narrowing, I'm just making small adjustments with where my needle is going up and down to fill this space. So you don't need a perfectly square or a perfectly rectangular shape to fill in. You can absolutely make it work with odd little shapes. And look how nicely it's just filling in this area of the leaf. By choosing a color that really matches the section perfectly, it's filling it in, it's giving it texture without bringing too much attention to the actual stitch, which is important sometimes. Sometimes you just want to stitch something without having it be the focal point. And I didn't want these spots on this leaf to be the focal point. Because there are so many of them, and I just think that this stitch is an unexpected one that you wouldn't really expect. You wouldn't expect to see it. It works really cool there. And I'm not adding the open one to this fabric because I already have my maidenhair, I have my feather stitch. I love how the closed version looks, and so I'm going to continue adding the closed version, but I do want to show you what the open version looks like on our sample fabric. So I have my fabric here. I love these water-soluble pencils from Clover, and I'm just drawing my 4 guidelines so that it's easier for you to see what I'm talking about. You can see they're the same exact spacing of the lines for each stitch that I'm showing you. The difference in this one is the swoopiness of it. In a way, it really reminds me of the feather stitch, the way that the feather stitch can wander. This really feels like a stitch like that. So I'm bringing it up on the first line, and instead of going right across, I'm just gonna like narrow it down. I'm just going to bring it down a little lower. For this one, I brought it up a little higher, pulling my thread through, bringing it up. And now I'm just varying where my stitches are coming up to give it that like gentle swoop that I'm looking for. That's a great word for this stitch. It's just a very swoopy stitch. So I'm stitching it exactly the same way, but it's just more of an open looking stitch. This would be a really fun stitch to add beads to the end of, to add colonial knots or French knots. And this also is a stitch that can fill in an area in a more open way like this. And then to end it, I'm just bringing my thread down right there. Now you can see I've used the same thread, the same exact stitch, just made one more swoopier, more open, rather than the closed version of that. And again, on my fabric, this is what the closed version looks like. And I think I'm going to do this in a few areas. I'm probably going to do 1 or 2 on each leaf. And you can see, looking at it from a distance, it's not immediately noticeable. And that's exactly what I want. I wanted some of these to have more height and dimension to them, and other parts I just kind of want them to fade away. This is what I would consider a base stitch. If you are working on building up layers of embroidery, this is a great first layer to your embroidery, and it can be built up on. Other stitches can be added to kind of go over it. Beads can be added. So it's a really great foundation stitch. Thank you so much for joining again today. It's really cool to see the Facebook group for this challenge growing and to see all of you connecting and sharing your projects. So if you haven't done that yet, we'd love to see you over there. So next time I'm going to focus on 2 isolated stitches. So as you look at your fabrics, just look ahead and see little areas that you might want an isolated type of knot or stitch. Enjoy this challenge and happy stitching!